Welcome to the Empower House podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Bryant, founder of Empower House, the Brunch Club events, business club mentor, twin mum, and coffee enthusiast. I've been hosting my networking event, the Brunch Club, featuring incredible speakers for 7 years. Now I'm bringing the Brunch Club experience and more to your ears. Come and join the community. Find us on Instagram at empower.house. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I'm so pleased to have you here. This is a little milestone for me. This is episode 10. I'm very pleased to have actually launched this. I had been talking about having a podcast for such a long time before the girls came, and I kept saying I wanted to do it. And anyway, long story short, I started recording these on my phone from the voice memo app while I was walking the girls because they don't sleep at the moment. And I would walk for an hour. So I decided that if I was going to start the podcast that I had been talking about, that I would just have to do it imperfectly and go with it. I am very pleased to be able to sit in my office and give you proper sound quality, thanks to my beautiful boyfriend who got me these wonderful microphones as well for my birthday, which was just fabulous. They plug into my phone so I can actually walk the girls and give you good quality all at the same time. But nothing beats being able to sit down and just to have a good chat with you. Anywho, today's episode is on something I get a lot of questions about, and so I thought I would put them all into one episode for you. But if there's anything that I miss, feel free to come and message me on Instagram. I'm an open book. I'm happy to answer anything, well, just about anything anyway. Today we're talking about the twins, and I'm going through everything from before conception to now. So there's a lot of information, and it's stuff that I have learnt through reading and listening and going and seeing doctors. I am not a doctor, so if you are having any kind of trouble or whatever, go and see a doctor. Please don't rely on the advice of people from the internet, including myself. All right, I'm just telling you what I did. It is my story, and that's how I'm telling it. All right. So the first question that I get asked a lot is, did you conceive naturally or was it IVF? And it was a natural conception. We were looking at IVF though, and there's a reason for that. I had a conversation with a girlfriend a couple of years ago who suggested that I get my fertility checked. She suggested that I get a test called the AMH, and it's the anti-Mullerian hormone test. And what that was going to do was to check out how my ovarian reserve was. Did I have a lot of follicles there or not? All that sort of thing. And I'm very glad that I did. I was 34 at the time and in a brand new relationship. So, I needed to know if I had any issues that I needed to work through. I went and I saw my GP and I said, this is what I wanted to do. So we did a full blood count, liver function, hormone panel, including this AMH. The AMH test is a relatively new one. It's only about a decade old, so relatively new in the scheme of all of this. It's not covered by Medicare, so it cost me $100. You need to know what part of your cycle you're on and that sort of stuff. And it just gives you a bit of a snapshot of where you're sitting with your ovarian reserve. So what it said to me was that out of 100 women of the same age as I was at the time, I would be in the bottom 3. And that was a bit of a shock to me. I had been on the pill for a very long time because I had some ovarian cysts and all of that sort of thing. So I didn't know that I had problems. I mean, there was obviously the cysts, but anyway, I didn't think it was impacting my fertility, but there you have. So I then went and saw a gynecologist who said to me that there was no reason I couldn't get pregnant, but if I was to leave it too long, the chances of me doing it naturally were going to come down. So at 35, the chances of pregnancy, of conception and a full pregnancy decrease. Once you hit 40, they plummet. There's all of this sort of thing. So time was against me. At that point, I decided that I was going to freeze eggs. because I wasn't what Medicare refer to as a social freeze, I was going to pay about $12,000 to go through the egg retrieval process, which I'll tell you about in a second. But I would get about $6,000 back. It's still a very expensive process, and hard on the body and all of that sort of stuff. But at least there was that. Medicare have a term social freeze, and it just refers to someone that is doing it for a reason that isn't medically necessary. So you want to travel, you are young, you want to focus on your career and decide that you want to put some of your eggs away on reserve so that you can come back at a later date and have them there. The gynecologist suggested to me that we needed to have about 20 eggs on ice, if you will, because the cells themselves are quite fragile compared to an embryo. So the difference, obviously, an egg is unfertilized and an embryo has been fertilized, and they grow it for a few days to make sure that it's going to take and survive. So they only put good quality, healthy eggs away, and they also only put good quality, healthy embryos away, which is why you want to have about 20, because when they defrost, for better lack of a better term, when they defrost, they don't keep the same quality. The quality diminishes, so there can be problems. With my ovarian reserve, he told me that it would be reasonable to expect a result of about 4 to 8 eggs at the most being retrieved, which was pretty confronting. If they want 20, I would have to go through this a number of times to get there. So anyway, my decision was that I was going to do this egg retrieval. The process is they do some testing, they make sure you've got no STIs, they make sure your blood work is right, all of that sort of thing. They also, then you have an information session with the nurses at the fertility group, and they order in the medication for you. You have to start taking it on day 1 of your cycle. There's 3 different injections. The first one is the follicle stimulating hormone, or FSH. The second one is an anti-ovulation injection, and you take that until you take the third injection, which is to get you to ovulate, and you take that 36 or 37 hours before you do your egg retrieval operation. I didn't end up going through this process because, like I said, we were in a new relationship. Luke and I are still together. Now we have twins. So obviously that's worked out. We decided that we would do embryos. We were testing. He got all of his side tested. Everything was fine. What we needed to do next was a DNA test to make sure that his sperm and my eggs were going to play nice and not give us any anomalies, or we could make informed decisions about that as well. We both spent a lot of time preparing to get a really good result. And what do I mean by that? 90 days is the amount of time for eggs and sperm to mature. So we both cut down alcohol. We ate well. We were doing exercise. I reduced stress. That was a major part of my my preparation, and I added to my supplement regimen. I was already taking NutraOrganics collagen and super greens and super reds. I think that they are excellent products. I've been on them for a really long time. They're good for my hair, skin, nails, gut health. I rarely get sick. I'm typically quite a healthy person. I also take vitamin D because I've had some skin cancer and melanoma issues in the past, vitamin C. And then I added to my list of things that I was taking Elevate for folic acid. This helps with not having neural tube defects. The neural tubes are what makes up the spinal cord and brain of babies, so obviously you want them to be healthy and as good a quality as possible. I also added Myo and Decairo inositol and a fish oil with DHA, and those two help with egg quality, uterine health, hormone regulation, all of that sort of thing. obviously very important. The inositol and the fish oil are also very good for men for all of those reasons as well. The inositol also helps you with sleep. So all of those things. And I did that for quite a while. I took some time off alcohol completely because it is a toxin. I wasn't drinking that much as it was. But I decided that if I was going to spend $12,000 on doing this egg retrieval, that I was going to get a damn good result out of it and try and get as many eggs through as possible. Now, the follicle stimulating hormone stimulates the growth of follicles. Follicles, follicles don't all have eggs. So they are retrieving all of the follicles from your ovaries. Some of them won't have eggs in them, others will. And then some of the eggs won't be of good enough quality to put on ice or to fertilize, so they don't use them. We did all of these tests. We had the one more to do, and we went to Europe and just put it off a little bit and ended up with twins anyway. So it was a spontaneous conception, as I was told, which is brilliant. So we saved ourselves $12,000 on that occasion, which was lovely. I don't think that there's any real difference in price between doing an egg retrieval or doing the full IVF. At some point, you've still got to introduce the sperm to the egg anyway. So yeah, it's pretty well the same price. It's just that you've got to go through this thing over and over. So lots of love to all of those people that have gone through or are going through the IVF process. It's such a big investment of your money and your time and your emotions. So big love to all of those people. The next question that I get is, how was pregnancy? So just to fill you in, I had been tracking my cycle. Obviously, we were looking at doing this egg retrieval. So I had been tracking my cycle for 2 years since I had come off the pill. And I knew as soon as I was late that I was pregnant. So I was 2 days late. I said to Luke, I'm late. And he said, well, you've been late before. And I'm like, not since I came off the pill, friend. I'm a 28-day girl. The moon sets her calendar by me, not the other way around. So I knew straight away. I went and saw a doctor, my doctor. I didn't bother doing any home pregnancy tests or anything like that. I went and saw her. I had to see her for some other things. We did the urine test there in the office, and it came back with what she called a strong positive. And I was 9 days late by that stage. So, you know, I was pretty certain I knew what the results were. We did some extra testing at that point as well. I went and got some bloods done. They test for all of, again, the hormones, especially the pregnancy hormone. I didn't know at that point that I was having twins. I just knew that I was late, and we told our families over that weekend. It was my birthday 2 days after we found out that I was pregnant. So we'd already organized a birthday breakfast. Funnily enough, that particular year, I didn't feel like having a big boozy lunch. Surprise, surprise. I didn't know it at the time, but I just didn't have it in me. I decided, nah, breakfast with family. I'm just going to have it easy. And we had it all booked in for the Saturday morning. His whole family ended up with gastro. So he had to stay away from me as well because he'd been around them all. Gastro is obviously dangerous for pregnancy. I still went and had breakfast with my family, told them then. Lots of surprise. Everyone was very happy. And then we told his family. I was over the phone with him later that night. So yes, very exciting. Great timing as well, because the very next morning I started getting morning sickness. So I was, you know, barely pregnant and sick straight away. Literally 3 days into finding out that yes, I was in fact pregnant, I started with morning sickness. I was sick from that day until about 5 months in. So it was pretty wild. I said that we did some blood testing for hormone levels and stuff. My HCG levels came back and they were through the roof. But for where I was in my pregnancy, they should have been about 7,000. Mine were 23,000. And my doctor said to me, well, you're either further along or this is a multiple birth. And I was like, don't say that. I have twins on both sides of my family. And Luke has identical twins, sisters, like all of the things. It was a pretty high chance of twins, although I was very delusional and convinced myself that it was just a single pregnancy. It was not. We went for our scan, and the sonographer was so casual. She is scanning, the TV is up on the wall, it's all black and grey and gooey, and I don't know what I'm looking at. And she's very casually saying, "So, do twins run in the family?" And both Luke and I were like, "Does that mean it's two?" There were some tears in that office, but I was very composed and then had a big cry in the car park when we left. I was so shocked. I don't know why, because it's ridiculous now that I'm out here on this side. But yes, all the signs were there. Definitely was having twins. Very strong pregnancy, very sick. It was two girls, obviously. So yes, pregnancy sucked for me. I also got influenza A partway through, and I spent 4 weeks in bed. I was so sick. I was really concerned about how they were going, but they were getting all of the goodness. I was surviving on pretty much Guzman and Gomez breakfast burritos. I could only get about half of one of those down at a time. I was violently ill. You can't take anything good either when you're pregnant. Even the throat lozenges are, I mean, you might as well just suck on a spoon of honey for all the good that they did. Yeah, it was pretty rough actually. So I didn't enjoy that. And then I was massive as well. I was just belly out here, just huge belly. And so it was pretty tough on me physically. And yeah, it was what it was. So I did not enjoy the first 5 months. The 6th month, obviously, I felt so much better because I didn't have influenza A any longer, and I wasn't getting morning sickness so much. It's really rough when, brushing your teeth kind of sets you off. But anyway, it just is. That's just part of it. I'm sure that if I was pregnant with one baby, maybe it wouldn't be so difficult. But hey, who knows? Everybody's pregnancies are different. So it was tough. Twins do run in the family. I should have known that that's what was going on for me, but I think I was just a little bit in denial. Another question that I get is, did they arrive early? Yes, they did. I convinced myself that I was going to get to 37 to 38 weeks. I booked in a C-section for partway through January, and I was adamant that that's where I was going to get to. I booked in a C-section because, well, it was my choice, but the thought of birthing one vaginally and then having to have a C-section to get the other out just seemed like my worst case scenario. So I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have the C-section. So that's what we ended up doing. They did arrive early. I was working up until Christmas Eve. That was going to be my thing. I didn't want to let anybody down. I was massive at this point. People would ask me every day, "Oh my God, are you overdue? Like, you look like you're about to pop." Yes, I felt like it. Everything on me felt massive and stretched, and it was because there was two babies in there and I had no room for me. So I was working up until Christmas Eve. I did a massive day the day before, so the 23rd. And then, wouldn't you know it, at 1 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Eve, on what was meant to be my last day of work, one of my waters broke. And I say one of because I had what is referred to as DCDA twins. That stands for something, but I can never remember the full name. What it means is 2 sacs, 2 placentas. So die something. Yeah, I can't remember. So 2 sacs, 2 placentas. What that means was I had one baby and the other, one baby in my pelvis and the other one sitting a little bit on top, like a little yin and yang. And the one on the bottom sac, her waters broke. So that was a bit of a surprise. What I found out after that is that you can stay pregnant even though your waters have broken. I had no labor. I went to the hospital. They checked me out. Everything was fine, but they kept me in for a couple of days because you can usually go into labor pretty soon after that. They say you've got the most chance in the next 72 hours after your waters have broken. I had one still in her little sac floating on the top up near my rib cage. She was quite happy, and the other one they just keep producing more amniotic fluid anyway. But yes, she was quite heavy into my pelvis at that point. I stayed in hospital. We did the steroid injections so that their little lungs could develop. We were 34 weeks at this stage. Well, actually, we weren't even 34 weeks when the waters broke. But anyway, we were just there at that 34-week mark, just about. I stayed in hospital for a couple of days, so I got to do Christmas in hospital. Luke and my parents came and visited me. Yeah, it was what it was. I came home on Boxing Day, and the advice that I was given was that if anything changed, if anything at all, if I was uncomfortable, if it was weird, if there was a color change in the fluid, blood, anything, come back in. They said to me, we would rather you come in 99 times and we send you home, and on the 100th time you come in and have the baby, right? So they're very assertive with this. Come in if anything changes. So on a couple days later, I woke up. There was a little tiny bit of blood on my pad, so I went back in. Still no labor, no nothing. They again, oh, it's better that you came in. Everyone's very casual. Much better that you came in. We've done all of these scans. Everything seems normal. We'll just do a speculum and then you can go home. So Luke and I are talking about, great, we'll go down and we'll get some lunch at this place before we head home. We're messaging our families saying everything's fine. They're just going to do a speculum and then we can come home. The doctor did the speculum and her face changed. And she said to me, I can see baby's head poking through your cervix, baby's hair, excuse me. You're having these babies today. So it turned out that I was 9 centimeters dilated. I had no labor pains whatsoever. I was uncomfortable, of course, because I have 2 babies. I was like 100 kilos at this point. And this baby is now not floating around. She's sitting on my hips, in my pelvis. It was very uncomfortable. I'd had some Braxton Hicks, but honestly, nothing else, no labor at all. And a couple of hours later, after having to push really hard for, not physically, metaphorically, I had to really advocate for the fact that I wanted to have a C-section, because they said, well, look, you've already 9 centimeters. At 10 centimeters, we start saying push. You've already done the hard part. And I'm thinking, there's 2 of them. And I'm pretty sure the hard part comes when you are exiting humans from your body. And again, like I said earlier, my worst case scenario was delivering one vaginally and then having to come back and have a C-section, an emergency C-section for the other. This was already classed as an emergency C-section because it wasn't planned. I wasn't in any trouble at this point that we knew about. But it wasn't planned, therefore it's called an emergency. There was some argument about whether I was going to get an OR straight away or not. Somebody had an agenda that they were trying to push. Thankfully, it was overruled by the senior consultant that was on at the time. I have to say the hospital, the maternity and the neonatal and everybody, they were so fantastic. There was just one person that was not. And anyway, it was overcome, so it was fun. The senior consultant advocated for me. He said, go and open an OR. She's having a C-section, that's what she wants. And so we went down there, and let me tell you, I melted down for like an hour and a half straight. Luke was amazing and strong and held my hand. People were doing all sorts of things, jabbing me here and signing this, and just there was so much going on. Thankfully, we did the C-section. The girls were okay. One needed some help, but I was bleeding, so I was actually in strife and lost a bit of blood there. So it was fortunate to have the C-section when I did. So yes, they did arrive early. It was not what I had planned. In my head, I was going to finish on Christmas Eve, and then I was going to have a few weeks of floating in the pool and pottering around and sorting out my nursery and doing all of these sorts of things. And I would feel great because I hadn't let anybody down because I'd worked all December. Yeah, It was not to be. And honestly, silly, because there's something like 63% of multiple births happen early. When I say multiple, I mean twins. It's like 100% for anything that's triplets and over. Oh goodness. So yeah, there's a lot of multiples being born early. And yeah, having my waters broke meant that when I was at home, I wasn't allowed to swim or take a bath. They say no sex, no swimming, no tampons. Obviously, risk of infection. So that's the reason there. So yeah, ruined all of my plans. But they got here and we were okay. So we spent 3 weeks in the hospital going back and forth. The crew there were amazing. As I said, the nurses and the midwives, they took such good care of us, such good care of the girls. It was like going to a school, like a hands-on school to learn how to keep babies alive. And honestly, in the state that I was in between the C-section and the recovery and everything, I got mastitis. It was just a whole ordeal. I couldn't imagine having brought these tiny, tiny little humans home with me because they were really small. They were 7. We were only 7 months pregnant at this point, so they were really small. I could not imagine the stress of bringing them home and caring for them at the same time. I was so grateful to have the experience that we did where we were in and out of the hospital every day, just back and forth, back and forth. I was up pumping all night, still am. Good times. Leading into the next question, are they breastfeeding? I got to do some breastfeeding in hospital. Like I said, they were really small. They would feed a little bit and they would fall asleep. They were 2 weeks. So they were using more energy than they were taking in, really. We started feeding them with a nasal gastric tube, so a little tube down their nose, and then we would pour milk through the top through a syringe. So they weren't feeding properly. It took some time. They did get those tubes out before they came home, obviously. Well, not obviously, you can bring them home with those tubes, but we weren't going to do that. Again, so tiny. They were so little. And it's a whole other thing. So yes, I did breastfeed for a part. I had 2 babies. It's very difficult to breastfeed 2 babies at a time. I have only ever successfully latched them both twice. So it is quite a thing. And then also when one's wanting to feed, they're both wanting to feed at the same time. So what am I going to do? Put one on a boob and try and feed the other one a bottle? It was a lot to navigate. So when I came home, that became a lot more difficult. In hospital, all I'm doing is feeding, changing, napping, going and eating myself. That was the only thing I had to do. When you're here, it's sterilizing bottles and cleaning the pumps, and you've got your own washing, and you need to eat and you need to shower. Like there's all of these other things. Like just real life still happens. So we did not get to breastfeed as long as I would have liked to. They are still on breast milk because I am still pumping. We are 7 months in and they are mainly fed expressed breast milk. They've just started on some solids. They're not all that interested in the food itself, but the spoons are pretty intriguing. And they do get some formula. And quite frankly, I just don't care what they get fed as long as they are fed. There was a moment in hospital, and I'm told, and I'm going to take this as true because I'm told that it happens to everybody. My colostrum came in, my supply came through, and it was either day 2 or day 3. These were all very blurry and felt like one very long day. But on day 2 or day 3, my supply dropped. I didn't have the milk, and I got a call from the NICU. And they said, they're hungry. Can we feed them formula or do you have some milk? And I didn't have anything. I didn't have anything to feed them. I was like, obviously feed them formula. I'm not going to, this was my choice, and obviously other people make different choices, but I wasn't going to let them scream in hunger because because I wasn't producing milk. So they got formula on day 2 or day 3. All of the nurses and the midwives told me this happens to everybody. Everybody's supply drops. You get this big rush of colostrum and milk to start off, and then your body needs to work out how much to produce to feed these babies, or baby if you're just having one. What you need is to eat, shower, and sleep, and then you'll be fine. Tomorrow you'll be back. It'll be great. And they were right. They were right. So it came back the next day, and I'm very fortunate to have had a great supply. One of the nurses, the midwives, excuse me, at the NICU made a bit of a joke that with my supply I could feed the whole ward. I have been very fortunate to have a really good supply the whole time. I guess because it's twins, and I do not stop eating and drinking. So yes, they're not breastfed, but they are fed expressed breast milk for the most part. They get some formula, and like I said, it doesn't matter as long as they're fed. I literally don't care. They're healthy and they're happy. That is the main game. That's the main aim, is what I should say. What is it like having twins? It's a lot. I imagine that it is much the same as having a toddler or a child and then also having another one. It's just that they're both at the same stage at the same time. So they're both trying to crawl right now. They're both babbling. They're both laughing right now. So everything's just happening at the same time. You're often trying to decide which baby to pick up first. And that's usually who is screaming at me the loudest. There's a lot all the time. We are really lucky to have great support. I don't know what we would have done. I know that we would have made it work, but I feel like this year would have been probably a lot more stressful if we were 100% alone, but we have great support. I'm very grateful for that. My parents look after them for a few hours in the morning, so I can kind of sleep from about 4 a.m. until about 8 a.m., which is nice. They love it as well, you know, and it's good for everybody, for the babies, for the grandparents, for us. Everybody gets some time with bubs, and yeah, that's pretty cool. But yeah, it's a lot, let me tell you. And I had this idea, let me share with you, that I was going to be back normal full-time working at 3 months. And that is hilarious. I was all sorts of delusional while I was pregnant. I don't know what I was thinking because I could barely see straight at 3 months. I didn't even know, other than I had to be tracking what week it was and how much they weigh so I could feed them, like all of that sort of stuff. So just wow, the level of competent that I thought I was going to be is hilarious. I'm not even able to work now, and we're 7 months in. I'm barely functioning as a business owner. I feel like, you know, you feel like when you're working, you're letting down the babies, and when you're with the babies, you're letting down the business. So there's this whole tearing apart, or that's how it feels. So I'm really lucky to have set up my systems and to have a VA and to have these girls who are also hosting my events so that everything can keep running. I'm still doing the back end stuff, but I'm doing it between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. for the most part, unless of course, like at the moment, they're sick and I'm nursing someone and settling them back to sleep every like 20 minutes between those hours. It's a lot. Having twins is wild, but at the same time, they're so cute. They're the sweetest things. They are interacting with each other. They love flowers and birds and dogs, and they're really coming online right now. So it's kind of wonderful and chaotic all at the same time. People ask me if I feel like I'm a different person, and I don't feel like I am. What I am is the same girl who likes the same things and wants to do the same stuff, but I have none of the autonomy that I used to have, and a lot more responsibility. So yeah, I don't think I've changed. It's just I just don't have the time in my calendar just yet, but we'll get there. It's a season. I was given some great advice, and it's just that you are in this particular season, and for better or worse, that's going to change. So I loved that. The next question I have a lot is, do they sleep at the same time? At night, mostly. Otherwise, no. We are trying to work out the whole nap thing at the moment. It's tedious, let me tell you, and really difficult to get two babies to sleep at the same time. I have often ended up in the rocking chair, which was the best gift. My parents bought this rocking chair for us, and everybody uses it. Mum, dad, Luke and I, yes, all of us use it. It is the best thing to be able to sit and rock a baby. If you're looking for an amazing gift for yourself or for somebody else, get a rocking chair. This one reclines as well. I didn't get the electric version because who needs it? You need the rocking, just the rocking, rocking, rocking. Amazing. No, they do not sleep at the same time yet. I'm working on it. How am I managing? Well, I think I touched on that a little bit. I feel like I'm not. It's just one day after the next day after the next day. And so I do my best. If we all get through, we're all happy and healthy, that's a great day. So for the most part, that's how we go. But yeah, look, it's stressful. I'm sleep deprived. So I'm managing by trying to lean into my friendships as much as I can. I don't get to turn up for my friends the way that I would like to, the way that I pride myself on, but it is what it is. So my catch-ups are all coffee and a walk or something like that. I do try and get to the occasional dinner, but night times are really difficult. Obviously, I'm putting babies to sleep, and then I also need some sleep because they don't nap during the day, so I can't sleep when the baby sleeps, which is terrible advice to give people because you also need to, eat and shower and function as a human. But hey, we try. Like I said before, I'm lucky to have put all of the systems in place and have support in my business and that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm managing by just accepting things as they are, quite imperfect as they are, and just going with it. I have to say that Luke is amazing. He's a great dad. He's also a great partner and catches me a lot because I am fried. He is working full time. I have my parents here. They take care of the kids for us of a morning. My mum takes them out a couple of days a week to just give me some time to be able to do things like this and get some work done and that sort of stuff. So I am very fortunate to have a lot of support. And yeah, look, I do my best. That is how I am managing. But I often feel like, as I said before, if I'm doing well at being a mum, then my business is suffering and vice versa. Or my relationship, we would love to go out and have some dinner dates and that sort of stuff, but it just requires a whole orchestration, it feels like. So yeah, it's difficult, but these guys are they're adorable. They're very funny. And I wouldn't want to be missing out on all the little moments that I get to see every day. So much changes so quickly. It's crazy how much they've changed in such a short period of time, and it just seems to be happening faster. One of them is saying "mum, mum, mum" and "dad, dad, dad," and the other one is like laughing and poking her tongue out, and they're so fun. So yeah. That is how twin life has gone for us so far. If I haven't covered any questions, like I said at the beginning, come and find me on Instagram at empower.house. Slide into my DMs, ask anything that you want. I'm an open book. I think that parents do an amazing job. I obviously did not appreciate quite how hectic that would be as a first-time mum and a first-time mum to twins. But I can tell you, I will not be getting pregnant ever again. That was my least favorite thing. The thing I will say about being pregnant, though, was what I called pregnancy perks. Now, prior to being pregnant, I used to walk around. I'm 5'4", and I would always get bumped into or run over, usually by men. And it was a whole thing. And like it happened everywhere, all over the world when we went to Europe and did all the things. Luke was like, this is crazy. They can see me, but they can't see you. Yes, exactly. I have lived with this for a long time. So when I got pregnant, Luke said, hey, you're going to have to stop like shoulder barging people back. Like, because that was my solution is like, they shoulder barge me, I'm going to tuck my shoulder in. It stopped happening. As soon as people could see I was pregnant, they were opening doors for me. They were stepping aside. Like there was this whole like pregnancy perk thing. People were really, really kind. And they also started conversations with me. I must have had like fuck off written across my face or like resting bitch face or something before because yeah, all of a sudden I'm in a line at a shop or something like that, and people are just randomly starting conversations with me, which was lovely. I remember the first time somebody tried to offer me their place in the bathroom line, because, if you've ever been to a women's toilet, you know that there's always a line. And this older lady was in front of me, and she looked at me and she went, "Wow, I remember those days. Here, go in front of me." Like, I was fine. I declined, but I thanked her. But yeah, that was the first time I texted Luke and I was like, wow, pregnancy perks have kicked in. So yeah, that was pretty cool. And actually, you know what, that hasn't stopped since we've got the twins as babies now. I get stopped everywhere. People are always 101 questions, hence the episode on this today. But yeah, people stop us all the time, and they're really helpful. They open doors, they step out of the way, they help me get pram down stairs and all that sort of stuff, or upstairs or whatever. So people are so kind, and I feel like if we could just do one thing as humanity, it's just be kinder to each other. That would be the loveliest world to live in all the time, where people are asking how you are and do you need anything, and like opening doors and stuff. Imagine if we all did that for each other. We'd just live in the best world ever. So that is my wish to my genie in a magic lamp, is that everybody could experience what I call pregnancy perks, just as the bare minimum for day-to-day living. That would be amazing. Yeah, anyway, that was a bit of a tangent, but yes, thank you for tuning in today. I hope I have answered all of your questions and given you a little insight into what life is like with twins. I will see you next time on the podcast.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you enjoyed it, please send this to somebody who you think will enjoy it too. Don't forget to leave a review so I can reach more people just like you.